In the world of special operations, the difference between a Medal of Honor and a body bag is measured in inches and seconds. We often hear about the victories, the precise surgical strikes that make headlines. But true special operations are rarely clean. They are chaotic, bloody, and terrifyingly dangerous. Today, we are ranking the top 5 most dangerous special ops missions in history. These aren't just stories of success, they are lessons in survival. We're talking about missions where the odds were mathematically zero, where suicide mission wasn't a figure of speech, it was the operational plan. From the frozen docks of Nazi-occupied France to the dusty kill zones of Afghanistan, these are the operations that forged the legends of the Navy SEALs, the SAS, Delta Force, and beyond. But we're starting with a mission from World War II, so insane, the commanders who planned it didn't expect anyone to come back alive. Number 5. Operation Chariot. The date is March 28, 1942. The target: Saint-Nazaire, France. The Nazis possessed a dry dock on the French coast, massive enough to repair their deadliest battleship, the Tirpitz. If the Tirpitz got loose in the Atlantic, it could sever the lifeline between the US and Britain, effectively losing the war for the Allies. The British commandos had to destroy that dock, but there was a problem. It was 6 miles up a river lined with 75 German gun emplacements. The plan? Pure madness. They took an old destroyer, the HMS Campbelltown, packed its hull with 4 tons of delayed fuse explosives, and decided to ram it, at full speed, directly into the dock gates. Under the cover of darkness, the flotilla moved in, but the Germans spotted them. The river erupted. Searchlights blinded the pilots. Tracer fire turned the night into day. Despite the ship being riddled with holes and the crew dying at their posts, the Campbelltown accelerated. They hit the dock gates at 20 knots. The impact was so violent it threw everyone to the deck. The commandos stormed off the ship, fighting hand-to-hand in the burning port to destroy pumping stations. But the real danger hadn't even triggered yet. The 4 tons of explosives in the ship's hull were on a timer. The Germans, thinking they had captured the ship, swarmed aboard to take photos. Hours later, boom! The explosion was so massive it vaporized the ship, killed hundreds of German soldiers, and destroyed the dock for the rest of the war. Of the 600 men who went in, only 228 returned. It remains the most daring raid in British military history. But while Saint-Nazaire was a victory of sheer grit, our next mission shows what happens when the enemy knows you're coming, and you have nowhere to run. Number 4. Operation Red Wings. June 28, 2005. The Hindu Kush Mountains, Afghanistan. A 4-man Navy SEAL reconnaissance team, Lieutenant Michael Murphy, Danny Dietz, Matthew Axelson, and Marcus Luttrell, dropped into enemy territory to track a high-value Taliban leader. It was a standard recon op until the unimaginable happened. 3 local goat herders stumbled onto their position. The SEALs faced a moral dilemma: execute the unarmed civilians and compromise their souls, or let them go and compromise the mission. They voted to let them go. Less than an hour later, the consequences of that mercy came crashing down. The team was ambushed by over 50 Taliban fighters armed with PKM machine guns and RPGs. The battle that followed is one of the darkest days in SEAL history. Outnumbered and holding the high ground, the enemy pushed the 4 SEALs down the mountain. They were jumping off cliffs, tumbling through shale, taking bullet after bullet, but continuing to return fire. Communications were dead. In a final act of heroism, Lieutenant Michael Murphy knowingly exposed himself to enemy fire to get a satellite signal. He made the call for help, taking a round that would end his life just to save his brothers. But the tragedy wasn't over. A quick reaction force helicopter, call sign Turbine 33, raced in to rescue them. As it hovered to offload troops, a Taliban RPG struck the rotor. The Chinook crashed, killing all 16 men on board. 19 of America's elite warriors died that day. Only Marcus Luttrell survived, crawling for miles with a broken back and shrapnel wounds. If you are enjoying our short stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. Number 3. Operation Gothic Serpent. October 3, 1993. Mogadishu, Somalia. What was supposed to be a 1-hour snatch-and-grab mission to capture warlord aides turned into the biggest firefight the U.S. military had seen since Vietnam. Task Force Ranger, a mix of Delta Force, Army Rangers, and the 160th SOAR, assaulted the Bakara market. The assault went well, until the militia looked up. Using RPGs, they managed to shoot the tail rotor off a Black Hawk helicopter, Super 6-1. Then, minutes later, a second bird, Super 6-4, went down. The mission instantly shifted from capture to rescue. But the city had become a hornet's nest. This wasn't a tactical retreat. It was a desperate 15-hour stand. Small units of Rangers and Delta operators were trapped at the crash sites, surrounded, running low on ammo and water. This battle produced two of the most heroic Medals of Honor in history. Snipers Gary Gordon and Randy Shugart volunteered, repeatedly, to drop into a crash site they knew was overrun, just to protect the pilot, Mike Durant. They held off the mob for as long as they could before they were killed. The convoy battles to reach the crash sites were a gauntlet of fire. RPGs were flying down alleyways like oversized bullets. By the time the sun rose the next morning, 18 Americans were dead, 73 wounded. Mogadishu changed everything. It forced the U.S. to rethink urban warfare entirely. But 20 years earlier, another country had already proven that sometimes the only way to win is to travel 2,000 miles and knock on the front door. Number 2. Operation Entebbe, July 4, 1976. An Air France flight carrying 248 passengers was hijacked by terrorists and flown to Entebbe Airport in Uganda, ruled by the dictator Idi Amin. The Jewish passengers were separated and held hostage in the terminal. The terrorists threatened to execute them if their demands weren't met. The problem? Uganda was 2,500 miles away from Israel. A rescue mission seemed logistically impossible. The radar coverage, the fuel range, the hostile army waiting on the ground. It was a suicide run. But the Israeli Sayeret Matkal unit didn't care. They planned the mission in less than 48 hours. They flew C-130 Hercules transport planes at treetop level to avoid radar, landing in total darkness at the enemy airport. And here is where the genius comes in. They knew Idi Amin drove a black Mercedes. So the Israeli commandos rolled a replica black Mercedes out of the back of the plane to trick the guards into thinking it was the president arriving. The ruse bought them seconds, but seconds are all you need. The commandos stormed the terminal. In a lightning-fast firefight, they killed all the hijackers and dozens of Ugandan soldiers. They destroyed 11 Ugandan fighter jets on the ground to prevent pursuit and loaded the hostages onto the planes. The entire raid took 90 minutes. 102 hostages were saved. The unit commander, Yoni Netanyahu, the brother of future Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, was the only commando killed in the raid. Entebbe remains the gold standard for hostage rescue. But our number 1 pick is a mission that didn't just save lives, it ended the life of the most wanted man on Earth. Number 1. Operation Neptune Spear, May 2, 2011. Abbottabad, Pakistan. For 10 years, the United States had hunted Osama bin Laden. He was a ghost. Then, a courier led the CIA to a high-walled compound in a quiet Pakistani suburb. The danger here wasn't just the enemy inside, it was the geopolitics outside. The US was invading the airspace of a nuclear-armed ally without telling them. If the SEALs were caught, it could trigger a war. If bin Laden wasn't there, the presidency would be in ruins. 2 stealth Black Hawks, carrying 23 Navy SEALs from DevGru, crossed the border. But almost immediately, disaster struck. The lead helicopter lost lift in the compound's heat vortex and crash-landed in the courtyard. The mission could have aborted right there, but the SEALs didn't hesitate. They exited the aircraft with the quickness and proceeded with the assault. Methodically, they cleared the compound, floor by floor. They knew the layout. They knew the threats. On the 3rd floor, a SEAL encountered a tall man. He was dispatched, right there. Then the radio call went out. Geronimo, Akia. Enemy killed in action. They gathered the intelligence, blew up the crashed stealth helicopter to protect its secrets, and flew out before the Pakistani Air Force could scramble their jets. It was the culmination of a decade of pain, executed in 38 minutes of precision violence. These 5 missions remind us that while technology changes, the core of special operations remains the same. Small groups of highly trained individuals walking into the dark, doing the work that no one else can or will do. Which of these missions do you think was the most dangerous? Let us know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching.